Today we're going to talk about the Sigma 19mm f2.8 art lens. Why you might want to avoid this lens when it comes to video, but add it to your cart right now when it comes to photo. What's up YouTube, it's your boy, BMAC. And for those of you who are subscribed to this channel, you know it's no real secret that I'm kind of a lens geek, a lens nerd, a lens aficionado. I don't even know what aficionado means. Alexa, what is the definition of aficionado?
A serious devotee of some particular music genre or music.
Okay, pretty sure that doesn't make sense then. Never mind. And that is why I was super excited for the Sigma 19mm f2.8 for my Sony a6500. When it comes to wide-angle lenses for the Sony a6500, we don't have a whole lot of choices. We have a few, but it's not like we have a plethora to choose from. Which is why the Sigma 19mm f2.8 was one of the lenses I was most excited about getting and using on the day-to-day. Now, based on a few things, focal length, aperture, sharpness, colors, autofocus, all those features in the Sony a6500 proved to be pretty impressive. But I thought this was going to be my go-to lens for videography. When I needed a little bit of a wide angle, this was going to be my girl. But today we're going to talk about the Sigma 19mm f2.8 and share my opinion on why you might want to avoid this lens when it comes to video, but add it to your cart right now when it comes to photo. First things first, let's talk about the good. When it comes to focal length, 19mm is a very doable focal length for a lot of purposes, especially for vlogging. I specifically bought this lens for vlogging. When you're using a mirrorless camera with a crop sensor like my Sony a6500, that gives you even less room to play with, so you really do need a wide angle lens in your arsenal to be able to use in certain situations. I do have several cinematic vlogs on the channel where I specifically use the Sigma 19mm f2.8. They look great. They look really good. This lens is super sharp. The colors are awesome. It really makes my cinematic vlogs look nice. The fast aperture 2.8 also allows for a little bit more of a shallower depth of field, which when you're trying to make your vlogs a little more cinematic with a little bit of bokeh in the background, it looks nice. In my personal opinion, anytime you have bokeh in the background of an image, it automatically ups the cinematic quality of that image. But that's just personal preference. That's how I look at it. It's all about that bokeh, baby. The Sigma 19mm, as you can clearly see in my cinematic vlogs, helps me to achieve that. And you pair that up with a focal length that allows you to vlog with this lens at arm's length without holding your arm all the way out and breaking your shoulder. Pair the focal length with the aperture. Those are two of the main reasons why I originally purchased this lens. When it comes to sharpness, this lens is actually super sharp pretty much throughout the entire lens. Now, I'm not gonna go into deep detail of pixel peeping nature because there's already several videos on YouTube that already do that for you and do a good job at it too. But in those pixel peeping comparisons, the lens was pretty sharp throughout the entire frame of the shot. Those three things in particular make this lens, when this lens is only like $200, perhaps even less than $200 if you could get it on sale somewhere, those three things make this lens pretty much a steal of a price for the quality that it provides. Like I said before, the colors are great. There's no weird color cast. They're very natural, very much like what you see with your normal, actual, natural eye. Normal, actual. Okay, chill with the adjectives. So you put all that together, you're probably asking yourself, all right, BMAC, why isn't this your #1 go-to lens for wide-angle videography? Well, you know what? It is a very solid lens for photography. We didn't talk about autofocus yet. There's an issue with the autofocus on the Sigma 19mm f2.8. Let's talk about it. One of the main reasons why I bought the Sony a6500 and why I bought the Sigma 19mm was because of the autofocus. Yes, I know there are situations in which you're gonna wanna use manual focus because that's more professional, but listen, anytime you could get away with using an auto setting and having it still look good, hint, hint, cough, cough, autofocus, I'm gonna use it because I need to. And when you need a shallow depth of field and maybe you're moving closer to the camera or holding things up in front of the camera, when you have that fast aperture, you're gonna need autofocus because otherwise you move 3 inches sometimes and you're out of focus. So autofocus for me is a must. Now, technically the autofocus with the Sigma 19mm, in and of itself, the autofocus is great. It doesn't hunt focus, it locks onto the subject of the frame pretty easily and pretty intelligently. I'd say close to 85 to 90% of the shots I take with this lens always nail the focus. There's never a problem with nailing the focus. But the major problem with the autofocus on this lens is there's a really weird pulsating, breathing focus kind of issue on the sides of the frame when you're using this lens. You can clearly see in some of my videos, if you take a look on my channel, there's several videos in which I use the Sigma 19mm f2.8 where I'm just talking to the camera, just like I am right now. But if you look closely, I'm in focus. I look good. The focus is great on me. But on the very sides of the frame, in the corners of the frame, there's this really weird shakiness in the footage that only occurs on the side of the frame. Now I know this has to do with the autofocus setting when using this lens for video, because I tried turning it off, I put the focus in manual focus, and it's fine. No breathing, pulsating, shakiness, vibration problems on the side of the frame. Same thing when I start to change the actual autofocus settings. Whether I turn down the autofocus to be a little bit slower, a little bit less responsive, we still had that pulsating breathing thing going on in the corners of the frame. It's an issue that is so heavily present with this lens that it actually is heartbreaking, because besides that one issue, I love this lens. I love prime lenses. I try to use prime lenses whenever I can. And so for a couple months, I've been using this lens for 6 months now. It's been pretty good until lately when I've been using it in more and more setups, especially when I have it on a tripod and the background is very static, not moving at all. That's when you see that crazy pulsating stuff going on, like an egg is about to hatch or something. And it basically renders this lens useless for video when you're using autofocus. And this is perhaps a little less noticeable when you're vlogging with this lens and you're walking around and the background is a little bit blurry or moving, because in that case, if you have a moving background, it's not very static, you're not gonna see those pulsating, breathing things going on nearly as much as you will when it's static on a tripod. When it's on a tripod and that background isn't moving and it's still, you'll see that shaky, you hear that? That's gotta be something to do with it too. You'll see that shakiness going on in the sides of the frame. And even then, when you're vlogging and you have a moving background because you're moving the camera, if you're using something like slow motion, it almost makes it worse, because then the pulsating breathing thing is actually like almost making it look like you're hunting focus, but you're not, because the main subject of the frame is in focus. It's just some weird reactive autofocus thing going on. Maybe it's with the magnets in here. I don't know what they put in this thing. The Sigma 19mm f2.8 does not operate correctly for video. And in case you're wondering, I called up Sigma. The tech rep that I was on the phone with didn't really know about the issue, thought that I was using autofocus wrong. But if you do a quick YouTube search, you will see that there are dozens of other Sigma 19mm users who are using this lens for video who are experiencing the exact same problem. I don't think it's necessarily something that could be fixed. I don't know if it's a firmware thing. I don't know. All I know is that for right now, this lens is basically unusable for video because of that shakiness effect in the sides of the frame when using autofocus with this lens. If you're using it for photo, by all means, use this lens for photo. It is a fantastic lens at a steal of a price for photo. For photos, it'll get the job done. I've actually used this particular lens for several of my past Instagram posts over the last couple of weeks. Instagram.com/BMAC'S if you want to see those photos I took with this lens. So if you're planning to just use this lens for photography, you'll probably be fine. If you're planning to use it for videography, as of right now, as of the making of this video, my review has to be a bad one. Everything else is good except the autofocus because of that breathing shakiness effect on the sides of the frame. Having said all that, if you're interested in the Sigma 19mm f2.8, if you're interested in still purchasing it, I'll of course be sure to leave a product link in the video description box below, so be sure to check that out. And of course in the video description box below as well, or through the card annotation that's gonna pop up right up there, you can click that. That will bring you directly to videos where I specifically use the Sigma 19mm f2.8 for my cinematic vlogs. And you'll have some examples of some videos where you can't really see the breathing focus problem, and some videos where I'm talking to you with a tripod and it's severely present. For now, I don't know, I guess I'm just gonna use this lens as a photography lens because it's basically useless when it comes to my use for it for video, and that breathing autofocus is just, it's horrible. I mean, if you listen closely, you can hear the thing breathing right now. Totally kidding.